Today I fucked up by quoting The Office to a drug dealer's friend. All my other dealers were dry this morning, so I texted one friend to see if he knew anyone that could sell. I didn't know the guy he sent me to, but I was told he was a chill guy. He was a little cautious but overall fun to hang out with. Whatever, as long he isn't weird, I thought. I headed over the guy's place and knocked on his door. I heard 3 locks and the chain unhook before he opened the door. After inviting me in, he locked the door again and told me to wait there in the living room while he went to get his stuff. His friend was in the living room watching The Office on TV. We looked at each other and he waved somewhat awkwardly. This is where I fucked up. The episode they had on TV was called Frame Toby. If you're a fan of the show, you might be able to see where I'm going with this. In reference to the episode, I awkwardly blurted out, "I'm not wearing a wire, so." I'm known to be witty, but I often catch myself saying something faster than I can think through the consequences. This was one of those moments. I didn't know these guys, and for all they know, I could be a cop. The friend on the couch also hadn't seen The Office before, so he didn't know I was quoting the show. He got the angriest look on his face, like I just called him a terrible name. "What the fuck did you just say? You're wearing a wire? I ought to kick your fucking ass." Not expecting this, I started to stutter out a response, trying to tell him it was a joke from the show. Couldn't get the words out before the dealer came back and told him to chill. He asked me what I said to him and I said the quote exactly back to him. The dealer starts laughing and tells his friend to keep watching. His friend's face started getting red immediately. He pieced it together and started immediately apologizing. The scene happens 5 minutes later and he begins apologizing again. I ended up smoking and watching The Office with them for a couple hours. I found out that these guys do a movie night every Monday, so I'm going back tomorrow. Maybe this time I'll quote Parks and Rec. Too long didn't read, told drug dealer's friend I'm not wearing a wire like in The Office. They didn't know I was joking and threatened to kick my ass. Edit, lot of butthurt people here getting mad at a stranger for being dumb and hanging out with his friendly neighborhood drug dealer weed guy lol. Maybe this time I'll quote Parks and Rec. Parks and recreational drugs. On the plus side, new people to chill with. Weed dealers are typically pretty relaxed people. Coke dealers, not so much. Yeah, weed dealers tend to be college dropouts selling some dope on the side. Coke dealers on the other hand are seasoned criminals. Would not recommend hanging out with dealers who sell hard drugs. My dealer back in the 70s preferred I hang around for about an hour as he didn't want obvious traffic to his house. A couple beers, and I was good to go. Feel weird if I am expected to just show up and dip. Like, I am looking like I am just there for exactly what I am there for now. This is probably the realest today I fucked up I've read in days. Today I fucked up by getting a coworker a set of truck nuts. Technically TIFU since this was on Friday. I work at a small call center for a chain of locally owned businesses. In total there's about a dozen of us, all of coincidentally being women except for one guy in his 30s, we'll call him Dave. The pay kinda sucks but it's genuinely nice having a job at the moment and everyone gets along really well. Our one male coworker is a very friendly guy that never really got out of that frat guy phase, but in the fun good-natured sense. He never hesitates to show off his brawn in the rare times it's needed and he always seems happy to hearing someone ask him to change the 5-gallon water jugs at the water cooler just so he show off a little. Dave was gone for the last week or so on medical leave. Thankfully not coronavirus related. I wasn't aware of why he was gone. Honestly, I don't really pay that much attention to personal lives of any of my coworkers. But we decided to have a small welcome back party and got him a cake and some cheap gifts. I had no idea what to get him. Really all I know is that he's a cool bro dude and has a big lifted diesel truck that he's in love with. So I got him something goofy that I thought would make him laugh. A set of those stupid rubber fake balls that guys like to hang from under the tailgate of their trucks. So we're all sitting around the break room for lunch the day he comes back, eating cake and whatnot, and Dave is opening presents. I think he got a sweater, one of those fancy watches that almost looks like a Rolex but obviously isn't that expensive, and some other normal gifts. Then he gets to mine, he opens the polka dot bag and pulls out the still in package, no pun intended, oversized rubber testicles. There was enough familiarity in the office that I didn't anyone would be bothered. It was obviously a joke gift. The room goes quiet, I look around and all the other women are looking at each awkwardly. That was the first sign that I made a mistake. The second sign was when Dave, without a word, got up and left the table. Then one of the older women at the table turned to me and said, "You know he had to get his testicles removed because of cancer, right?" No, I did not know that, Becky. That would have been really useful information 60 seconds ago when I would have had time to jam that gift back in the bottom of the trash can and buy Dave a soda instead. So there I am, still in shock, thinking about how I unintentionally just mocked someone who went through an incredibly rough situation that I had zero awareness of to begin with. About 3 to 4 minutes of awkward chatter from my co-workers about trying to figure out what to do. Dave comes back. Stand up to try and figure out how to explain that it was an honest mistake and I'm not some callous bitch. Dave walks right up and gives me a big bear hug and picks me up off the ground. Turns out he loved the gift, and ran outside to put it on his truck right away because it was exactly the kind of goofy pseudo-macho man thing that he thought was stupidly funny. He thanked me profusely for treating him the same as I always had and admitted that he was scared me and the other women wouldn't see him as a big manly guy anymore after his surgery. He said it was a huge weight off his chest knowing that things could stay the same around the office and we wouldn't act weird around him. Too long didn't read, I accidentally bought a pair of big fake rubber truck balls for my co-worker right after he came back from orchiectomy surgery. But no, Becky, I didn't know that part of me dying. I'm glad this had a happy ending. Man, I was nervous, sweating, thinking your ghost had typed this story up after he killed you. Smiley face, smiley face. This is nuts. Had this been me, I think I would have set a world record for the amount of times a person can say I'm sorry. Holy shit, that's mortifying. Today I fucked up by saving my neighbor's life and thus ruining her life. I moved into a neighborhood with my mother and grandmother about 3 years ago. My late grandmother always was very sociable, and soon made friends with another elder woman that lived alone near us. We will call her Angie. They would hang out on our porch for hours and just talk about their lives. Angie was from Eastern Europe, and escaped the Soviet Union at 7 years old. Since then she has always had a deep disdain for the government, and has subscribed to almost every single conspiracy theory from chemtrails to Illuminati. My grandmother passed from leukemia in February, and it broke Angie's heart. She soon stopped coming to our house. When coronavirus started, I would periodically go over and see if she needed groceries and offered to go for her. But she started to forget who I was and would sometime forget she asked me for groceries. Fast forward to today, another neighbor that was checking on Angie, come rushing to my door claiming Angie has fallen inside her house, and that she could hear her but couldn't get into her house because her door is locked. I go to Angie's door with my neighbor crying behind me, and I can hear Angie moaning because the center top of her door has 4x4 a glass pane on the hinge behind some wooden decoration and is open. Now I'm a 23-year-old guy, so my view is skewed. But when I pulled at the wooden decorations I could feel how weak the door was. I found my plan B. Reach my hand into door and begin to undo. I shit you not, 3 deadbolts, a chain lock, and a key that was in the doorknob. I begin to try to open the door and it begins to give, but she had a 2-foot door jamb attached to the floor. Adrenaline pumping, I shoulder check the door 3 times and it doesn't give but flexes a lot. Remembering my wasted time on Reddit, I remember how to kick open the door, and the door jamb breaks, but not before the door snapped in half. No time to think about that, I'll pay her for damages. I enter the house, and it is the absolute worst hoarding house I have ever seen. I used to clean out foreclosed houses for my real estate agent mother, so I have seen a few. Carpet was grey and matted so bad it looked like tile floor, nothing but dirt on the floors, stacked up bullshit everywhere, and the only way I can describe the smell is a dust ball smeared in cat pee and old person smell. I saw no shit 50 cockroaches scurry up the walls off the floor, there was a giant hole in her ceiling leaking, cat shit everywhere. I immediately began to dry heave heavily, but I don't care. Angie needs help. I run to her kitchen and I find an 85-year-old woman on the floor with no pants and a tube, catheter maybe, hanging out of her very visual area. Now, like I said earlier, I cared for my grandmother during her passing, so I can somewhat handle seeing that. What I cannot handle seeing is her laying in a pool of glass and shit with cockroaches crawling over her legs. She was conscious and I began to try to talk to her. My neighbor comes in behind me and gets her attention as she has been seeing her more often. We put a blanket over her bits and call an ambulance. I run outside and puke 3 times outside, and the smell is still in my nose. It turns out, talking to my neighbor, that she had probably been there since yesterday or the day before, as she did not answer the door. The ambulance and fire department show up, and the second that Angie saw these people, she just started shrieking horrifically, screaming how they will kill her and something about implants. I can't handle it and just walk outside and try to find Angie's cat. When I come back, the paramedics are telling my neighbor how they will not be able to bring her home, as her house is, no surprise, unsafe for living and being condemned. She will lose all the money she put into this house when she was young, and any money from the property will be used to put her in a nursing home if she survives the Illuminati implants they'll put in her at the hospital. Bonus confession: 3 months ago, one of her cats was dying horribly from mange, AIDS, and old age. I put him in a box, got him a bag of treats and Chick-fil-A nuggets as a last meal. Took him into the vet to be put down and never told anyone. I am this woman's grim reaper. Too long didn't read. My 85-year-old Soviet Union escapee, conspiracy theorist, neighbor fell in her hoarding house. I broke her door to save her, and the fire department is condemning her house. She will have to be taken care of by the gov in a nursing home. Literally her worst nightmare. Edit/update. Thank you so much everyone for your kind words and awards, it's really overwhelming. Many of your comments helped ease my mind about the dilemma, and I can only help but be thankful that my neighbor and I were able to help her. I called the hospital she was sent to when I got home from work, but I couldn't find anything out about her specific illness, whether it be more serious or just old age. Since I am not family, I did find out from my neighbor that a police officer, the last time Angie was out with my neighbor, commented on a brown recluse bite on her calf and asked my neighbor to keep an eye on her. This was about 3 weeks ago, and my guess is that became infected. My grandmother truly was a wonderful woman, very active in the church, worked to bring millions of dollars to impoverished people across the world. Unfortunately, with my mother and I's help, she was able to pass at home with help from hospice care. I miss her with all my heart, but grief, pain, and loss are a natural course for truly being loved. My deal with her before she became unresponsive was that I would continue to teach everything she taught me to the world. I hope I have done that here. Also, yes, I did find the second cat and gave it to my neighbor for keeping. It is young and somewhat healthy. Call your grandparents, don't leave anything on the table. We only have this one chance to make it. But today I fucked up, and in the words of Mr. Rogers, be a good neighbor. This is no fuck up by any means. You did what a decent human would have done. It's awful that she will be losing her home, but she could have died a terrible death if left there. And I'm sorry about your grandmother. I find it ironic that the culmination of her life ultimately goes to things she hates most, but if my grandmother taught me one thing, it's we must always help the less capable around us, no matter what hell you'll experience in the process. You are in a position to leave that toxic space, others are not so lucky. Thank you for your thoughts, and always hold your loved ones close. The treats for the cat was a kind touch. You're a good person. Honestly, the kindest Grim Reaper I've heard of. You're a wonderful human being, and I hope that you sleep well knowing that you saved 2 beings from suffering. This woman obviously could no longer properly care for herself and potentially could have met a much worse demise. The poor kitty had a delicious last meal. My condolences about your grandmother. She'd be proud of you, no doubt. I don't feel guilty, but there's always that thought of, am I a bad person? She would have done the same thing in my position, and she even told me so when I said that to her. But it doesn't make it any easier. My motto for 2020: it fucking sucks but it's okay. My grandma made who I am, she wouldn't expect anything less. Flexed biceps, fire. She would have died slowly, horribly, and not been found for weeks possibly. You saved her life. Not to F you, by you. It is extremely sad, but but this is a culmination of life choices she made. Unfortunately, I once had a neighbor in similar living conditions and the floor of their house rotted away. Smell caused a next door neighbor to report it, and that is how it was discovered. Guy had been living in the home as a widower for about 15 years and never threw away his garbage. That home was condemned and razed. I also saw a rotted out floor in cleaning out of houses. It horrifies me that people can live like that, but it's mental illness. Angie was also a widow of about 10 years.